My dear, they mock your silence, but I fell in love with the peace you carry. Your stubbornness is the only thing that ever made me feel truly safe. They call you cold, I call you sacred. You overthink, and that's why I trust your love. Everyone sees your flaws, I see your fight. They say you're too much, I say you're exactly what I prayed for. Your intensity scared them, it healed me. You never explain yourself. That's what makes you divine. They fear your depth, I drowned in it willingly. You speak too little, but every silence feels like a scripture. They want you easy, I wanted you real. Your chaos is where I finally felt seen. You're too blunt, they say. I call it holy truth. They reject your fire. I built a home in it. Your jealousy makes them leave. It made me stay. They crave your smile. I fell for your storms. I love the edge in you. They all tried to dull it. You remember everything. That's what made your love unforgettable. They hate how guarded you are. I worship it. Your honesty bleeds, and I drink it like wine. You're not soft. They just don't know how to hold steel. They hate your pride. I see your pain. You're never polite, only honest, and I needed that. They called you heartless. I saw your broken pieces glistening. Your anger saved me more than their kindness ever could. You don't apologize easily, but when you do, I break. You interrupt people, but you listen to me like scripture. You're not rude. You just don't fake love. They hated your ambition. I wanted to build empires with you. You say too much, but nothing I ever wanted to forget. They couldn't take your truth. I couldn't live without it. I fell in love with the part of you that even you hide. They call you difficult. I call you divine friction. You're too honest. It's why I trust you blind. They said you lack empathy, but you held me when no one else could. You're not cruel. You're just tired of being used. You demand too much, only because you give even more. They hate how you speak your mind. That's how I knew you were mine. You're not broken, you're just unedited. You don't play nice, you play true. You love fiercely, they couldn't handle the burn. Your sarcasm is a defense. I fell in love behind it. They fear you're wild. I called it sacred. You're too much of everything, and it's exactly what I prayed for. You don't sugarcoat pain. That's why I healed. They hate your seriousness. I saw the playfulness in your eyes. Your need for control made me feel safe in chaos. They hate your boundaries. I saw them as holy. You don't chase. That's why I couldn't stop running back. Your mood swings, heaven's warnings. They hated your questions. I fell in love with the answers. Your overprotectiveness made me feel chosen. You don't explain yourself. That's your power. They couldn't decode you. I learned your soul like scripture. You don't forgive easily. And somehow I loved you more for it. You never begged to be understood. And that's why I understood you. Your pain is not weakness, it's sacred history. They said you were too mysterious. I saw clarity in your chaos. You care too deeply. That's what destroyed them and saved me. You never apologize for your wounds. That's holy. You speak sharp truth. That's how I knew your love was real. They wanted a doll. I fell for a storm. Your coldness taught me what warmth should feel like. You question everything, and that's how I knew your love was true. They called you selfish. I saw you surviving. You ignore texts, but you never ignored my soul. You aren't rude, you're raw. You set fire to lies. That's why I believed your love. They said you were arrogant. I saw you guarding sacred ground. You never fake it. That's rare. They hate your stillness. I heard your silence louder than words. You take too long to open up. That's why it felt real. You don't flatter. You expose truth. You don't smile for strangers. That's how I knew your love was sacred. They feared your eyes. I read entire lifetimes in them. Your quiet rage was the most honest thing I've ever known. They wanted charm. I wanted your real. You didn't chase me, and that's why I followed you forever. They hate the way you love. I was born to receive it. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. You didn't belong to the world, and that's why I wanted to belong to you. Your coldness was just love, unreturned. They feared your solitude. I worshipped it. You love like a storm. Not everyone's built to survive it. You didn't apologize for your fire, and I found warmth in it. They wanted you obedient. I wanted you awake. You don't beg for love, and that's how I knew yours was real. They judged your silence. I found home in it. You never perform love, you become it. They called you heartless. I saw your sacred ache. You don't trust easily, but you trusted me. That's everything. They wanted you lighter. I wanted your shadows too. You intimidate them. You inspired me. They hated your silence. I heard love in it. You don't chase. That's what made me stay. They feared your eyes. I saw forever in them. You feel too deeply. That's how I knew your love was real. Your absence is louder than their presence. They wanted a yes woman. I wanted your fire. You didn't beg for love. That's what made me kneel. They mocked your pain. I kissed it. You're not cold, you're just done explaining your worth. You don't trust quickly, but when you do, it's holy. They called you intense. I called you alive. You made them uncomfortable. You made me whole. They couldn't handle your chaos. I saw constellations in it. You questioned everything. That's why I believed your love. They hated your honesty. I needed it to breathe. You weren't loud, but you echoed in my chest. They called you bitter. I saw a garden growing back. You didn't fake affection. That's how I knew you loved me. They rejected your depth. I sank gratefully. Your standards scared them. I rose to meet them. You didn't let them in, but you opened the door for me. They called you distant. I felt your presence in silence. You weren't easy to love, but you were worth burning for. They misunderstood your stillness. I saw it vibrating with truth. Your wildness didn't need taming, it needed reverence. You didn't seek approval, you demanded truth. They hated your questions. I loved your curiosity. You showed your scars without shame, and that's why I trusted you. You were guarded, not cold. There's a difference. They wanted your body. I wanted your rage and your dreams. You say no easily, and that's why your yes feels holy. You weren't mean. You were tired of being used. They called you rude. I saw radical honesty. Your silence wasn't distance, it was sacred space. You don't compromise easily. That's why I knew you'd never betray me. They hated your boundaries. I memorized them like scripture. You didn't try to be liked. That's what made me love you. They called you arrogant. I saw someone done begging. You protected yourself. That's what made me feel safe. They feared your certainty. I leaned into it. You weren't cold. You were calculating who deserved your heat. You don't soften for anyone, and I loved your sharpness. They wanted comfort. You brought confrontation. That's why I healed. You weren't detached. You were discerning. They said you were difficult. I saw divine tension. You don't perform love. You live it. They feared your depth. I found heaven in it. You don't ask for love. You command it. They hated your confidence. I drank it like wine. You spoke the truth, even when it burned me. That's love. They couldn't read you. I learned you like a prayer. You didn't show your heart easily. That's why it felt sacred. They called you unstable. I saw beautiful movement. You made people question themselves. That's what made me grow. You don't follow rules. That's why I trusted your love. They hated your unpredictability. I called it magic. You don't belong to anyone, And that's why I offered everything. They wanted you small, I wanted you infinite. You showed no mercy for lies. That's what made me believe you. You didn't make me comfortable, you made me real. They wanted ease, I wanted meaning. You don't lie for love, that's why yours is rare. They called you heartless. I saw sacred precision. You're not loud, but your presence echoes in my bones. They didn't know what to do with you. I never wanted to leave. You were too brave for their comfort. They wanted obedience. I wanted fire. You didn't ask for attention. You asked for soul. They feared your silence. I learned to worship it. You weren't soft, but you were the safest place I ever knew. They didn't understand you. I knew you before you spoke. You weren't made for them. You were made for someone unafraid of your storms. They didn't know what you needed. I gave it without asking. You weren't their type. You were my truth. They left because you didn't beg. I stayed because you never had to. You burned bridges to protect your peace. I built new ones to reach you. They saw danger, I saw devotion. You weren't hard to love. They just loved the wrong way. They mistook your standards for arrogance. I saw sacred value. You didn't need fixing. You needed reverence. They hated your hunger. I fed it. You weren't cold. You were exhausted from being misunderstood. They feared your passion. I let it consume me. You never faked anything. That's why your love felt eternal. They hated your wounds. I traced them with love. You didn't conform. You inspired rebellion. They wanted the version of you. I wanted the whole, raw, unfiltered you. You didn't bend. That's what made me trust you. They called it drama. I called it honesty with thunder. You loved on your own terms. I respected everyone. They wanted your surface. I swam through your shadows.